Hello, welcome to News Round, a recap of our stories in the week. I'm Ladi Williams. First, let's take a look at the headlines. Resident doctors across the country embark on nationwide industrial action, call for implementation of agreements. The Federal High Court in Abuja grants 12 aides of Sunday Igboho bail, says their detention is unconstitutional. PDP Board of Trustees hold emergency meeting, asks members not to jeopardize conduct of planned National Congress. Plus, Afghan officials say Taliban capture first regional capital, Zaranj. And we begin News Round with the nationwide indefinite strike embarked upon by National Association of Resident Doctors, who are calling for improved welfare packages and implementation of agreements. It appears to be another difficult time for patients at federal hospitals across the country, as states nationwide see some level of compliance with the strike directive.
It's never a good sign for the health sector whenever grievances are leveled at the federal government by the leadership of the National Association of Resident Doctors.
We are aware of the health officers that have been having irregular salaries ranging from 3 to 6 months also, and nothing has been done about their salaries. So I'm surprised government is not aware of what is happening presently.
And that signal has formally kick-started a nationwide strike, with resident doctors toeing the line. In Lagos State, there is obedience to the call, a move the chief medical director finds shocking, as he says resident doctors are not being owed by the state.
We tried to engage them to see whether we could convince them not to join the action, since they don't have serious issues with Lagos State government. But the reaction we got was that they will be sanctioned by the national body if they don't join.
But that's not the case in Oyo State, where the order has taken effect. The chairman, Association of Resident Doctors, University College Hospital, blames the federal government over what he describes as an insensitive approach to address the plight of doctors.
In UCH now, we currently have about 215 doctors who are still on the GVMIS platform. They have not been paid their May, June, July salaries.
In Edo State, University of Benin Teaching Hospital, there's a lot of movement, but none in the direction of medical service, an indication that the order is in force. The chairman of the Resident Doctors Association chapter in the state decries the non-payment of salaries to resident doctors for months, one of the many issues.
We called off the strike when we got promises. Our deadlines were maybe 1 week, 5 days, 1 month. The longest deadline was a month, in which all our initial demands would have been resolved.
In Imo State, members of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors at the Federal Medical Center, Owerri, have fully complied with the directives of its national body to down tools and embark on an indefinite strike action. Patients appeal to the federal government to, as a matter of urgency, address the demand of the doctors.
Appealing to them, they should stop with our health institution and our health personnel. They should, see their welfare so that they'll take care of our health.
In Kaduna State, while resident doctors in the federal tertiary hospitals, such as the National Eye Center and Ahmadu Bello Teaching Hospital, Zaria, have complied with the directive by the national body, their counterparts at the state-owned hospitals are yet to join in the strike. At the state-owned Barau Diko Teaching Hospital, Dr. Saeed Mohammed says they are yet to join in the strike as they have their own local issues, but sounds a note of warning to the federal government.
We are using this opportunity and medium to appeal to the federal government to do the needful and ensure that negotiations, discussions, and the promises they made are kept.
It was looking like it was going to be a smooth year for the health sector, but the announcement of an indefinite strike by the National Association of Resident Doctors has dashed that optimism.
Meanwhile, the federal government has asked the striking resident doctors to return to work, maintaining that the major issues upon which the strike is based are purely state government affairs. Minister of Health, Dr. Sage Hanira, during a briefing in Abuja, noted that 5 of the issues which concern the federal government and the process have been implemented. However, the National Association of Resident Doctors insists federal government cannot direct its members to return to work, having failed to keep to its own end of the memorandum of agreement they signed in 2020.
The National Association of Resident Doctors have been on an indefinite industrial action since August the 2nd, 2021, and authorities in the health ministry are meeting journalists majorly to explain what they describe as misinformation and disinformation of the public regarding the strike action.
We do not want the public to start thinking.
The Minister of Health begins by asking the striking resident doctors to return to work by Friday, 6th of August 2021.
Striking is not a tool to be used at this time of need. I want to advise that you go back to work by tomorrow.
Then we're still appealing to the doctors to go back to the negotiating table.
Key among the reasons the resident doctors are on strike are delays in the disbursement of medical residency training funds, non-payment of the salaries of house officers, non-payment of the national minimum wage consequential adjustment to resident doctors, abolishment of bench fee for outside postings, poor response of most state governments in domesticating the Medical Residency Training Act of 2017, and health insurance issues. However, the Minister of Health says only 5 of the issues affect the federal government. At the moment, Nigeria has over 176,000 cases of COVID-19, as 2,167 deaths have been recorded from the virus. The government is concerned about the effect the strike action will have on its efforts to tackle the situation, especially as the cases of the Delta variant increase.
We are already receiving reports that persons who are appearing with symptoms that look like COVID-19 are going to hospital are being rejected because they are told that the resident doctors are on strike. This is dangerous.
Reacting, President of the National Association of Resident Doctors in a Zoom interview says the federal government failed to keep its promises and so has no justification to ask the striking resident doctors to return to work.
A father will not tell his son to go back to work when you have not done what you are supposed to do. An MOA was signed on the 31st of March, and addendum to that was done on the 9th of April. For basic things meant mostly for federal institutions, not for states.
It's the 3rd time the resident doctors are going on strike in 2021 to press home their demands, and the attending consequences of the industrial action on the health sector in Nigeria is better imagined. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
And the nation's electoral umpire, that is the Independent National Electoral Commission, says it will deploy more information and communication technologies permissible under the existing laws to optimize the gains already made in the country's electoral system. Speaking at the opening ceremony of the 2-day retreat for officers of the Commission in Kefi, the INEC chairman notes that the Commission has been developing other applications with a view to enhancing the integrity of elections since the deployment of the card reader machine in 2015.
This is a retreat for the electoral umpire and the use of technology in our elections. And the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, is brainstorming with officials of the Commission.
believe that over
The chairman of the Electoral Operations and Logistics Committee speaks on some of the innovations that the Commission hope to deploy in future elections.
The second one I want to talk about quickly is the INEC Logistics Management System. This is designed to be an end-to-end system that runs from procurement of election materials all the way to deployment and retrieval. The final one I would like to talk about is the one the Commission recently approved, and that is what we are calling the INEC INEC Security Alert and Notification System, INEC SANS.
Since 2015, when INEC first introduced the card reader machine, the Commission has continued to push for the use of technology to enhance the integrity of elections. Some of these innovations include the deployment of a logistics tracking system during the Edo and Ondo state governorship elections, the use of Z-Part for electronic transmission of results, and the new security tracking system that it hopes to deploy in the November election in Anambra State.
The one that is new and innovative that we are deploying in Anambra is the security app in view of what happened recently with our facilities in a number of places around the country. So in others, you may have different tools, but they all work towards achieving one and the same goal. There are some activities, some aspects of technology that we have deployed that the laws are already adequate for us to continue to deploy these tools. We don't need any specific provision of laws, for instance, to deploy the EMSC. We don't need any specific provision of the law to keep deepening the use of technology for voter registration, for instance, which we are doing.
Elections are perhaps one of the legitimate means of leadership recruitment in any democracy, hence the need to strengthen the integrity of the electoral process.
And now to the courts. 34 days after joint security forces, including the Department of State Services, arrested 12 aides of Sunday Adeyemo, popularly known as Sunday Igboho, a federal high court sitting in Abuja grants them bail. The presiding judge, Justice Obiora Egwatu, who granted the applications filed by the 12 aides, said it is clear that no charge has been brought against them by the DSS since their arrest, and detaining them without any charges contravenes the sections 35 and 36 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Armed security personnel manned the entrance to the courtroom to prevent people, including some journalists, from going in. After an intense argument, cameramen are allowed to take some shots of the courtroom. In compliance with the order given by the court on August the 2nd, 2021, the DSS has produced in court all 12 aides of Mr. Sunday Adeyemo, otherwise known as Sunday Igboho. The counsel to the 12 applicants, Mr. Pelumi Olajengbesi, praised the court to admit all 12 of them to bail, arguing that their detention by the DSS without any charge amounts to a breach of the Constitution and their fundamental human rights. But the counsel to the DSS, Mr. David Awo, notes that although the service is not opposing the bail applications by the 1st, 3rd, 4th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th applicants because their involvement in the alleged crime was minimal, it is, however, opposing the bail applications by the 2nd, 5th, 6th, and 12th applicants because investigation so far on them reveals a high level of complicity on their part. But Justice Egwatu in his ruling notes that no charge has been brought against the applicants by the respondents, and keeping them in detention is a breach of their fundamental human rights, and therefore grants 8 of the applicants bail in the sum of 5 million naira with 1 surety each, while the remaining 4 applicants are granted bail in the sum of 10 million naira each with 2 sureties in like sum. The counsel to the applicants describes the judgment as fair.
The grounds are quite good and fantastic. What we are supposed to do is to quickly meet up with the required grounds so that we can quickly move on and these people can have their liberty.
Although the application for bail has been granted, the 12 applicants will still have to remain in the custody of the Department of State Service until the conditions for their bail are perfected. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
And still to come in News Round, the Taliban captures a major trading hub, Zaranj. We'll get details in a moment. Do stay with us. Welcome back. Still watching News Round. The People's Democratic Party's Board of Trustees is raising concern over the recent crisis within the party as it asks members to stop the infighting, which it says could jeopardize the peaceful conduct of the proposed National Congress in December this year. Chairman of the PDP Board of Trustees, Senator Walid Jubrin, noted at an emergency meeting in Abuja that the party must wake up from slumber, fearlessly diagnose its problems, and prepare the party for victory in 2023. Meanwhile, the national chairman of the PDP, Prince Uche Secondus, has appealed to members to work together for a peaceful transition of powers to a new national working committee. It's a well-attended emergency meeting of the PDP Board of Trustees at the party's headquarters in Abuja, with former national officers, including former Senate presidents, in attendance. The meeting is part of efforts to address some of the internal crises rocking the party, including defections of members and the resignation of some principal officers of the party, as well as calls for the sack of the Secondus-led National Working Committee. In his welcome remarks, the chairman of the Board of Trustees raises concern over how the ongoing crisis in the party could affect its prospects in 2023 if not urgently addressed.
This is our time to come out and deal with these matters, especially the recent one that has just happened within. The deputy national chairman, 7 of them, have resigned.
There has been some sort of cold war within the PDP leadership structure, with some members of the party calling for the resignation of the chairman of the National Working Committee. The party has also lost some of its members to the ruling party, and most recently, 7 principal officers of the party resigned, a situation that reignited calls for the sack of the Secondus-led National Working Committee. The PDP national chairman, who is at the center of the storm, now addresses the gathering. He notes that despite the divergent opinions, the NWC is interested in smooth transition of power at the party's national convention in December.
Issues of this nature must be handled quickly and swiftly, because any dislocation will cause an infraction and will result to several unknown issues that we may come out and we may not be able, but God forbid.
The PDP is expected to elect officers who will lead it into the next general elections during the national convention, tentatively scheduled for December this year. However, many within the party see the recent development as a huge threat to the party's chances in 2023. And the Nigerian Postal Service has unveiled a 50 naira revenue stamp for denoting transactions in the country. Over 25 million units of the stamps have been printed for distribution, according to the service. And the Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, Dr. Issa Pantami, who unveiled the stamp in Abuja, says it is part of efforts to boost Nigeria's revenue generation.
By the Nigeria Postal Services.
The Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, alongside guests, unveiling the new 50 naira revenue stamp. It's the first stamp to be printed after President Muhammadu Buhari signed the amended Finance Act 2020 into law in December 2020. Mr. Ali Pantami says the stamp will be used to authenticate all lawful transactions as it discloses plans by the federal government to reform NIPOST.
We also have a plan of NIPOST Property and Development Company. This is a company that will bring together all the properties of NIPOST, develop them, and make sure that government is generating revenue from them.
The bill to repeal the Nigerian Postal Service Act and reenact the Nigerian Postal Commission as passed third reading of both chambers.
The Southwest Governors Forum has called for the removal of the federal government's exclusive control of stamp duty collection. But the Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, who speaks to journalists after the event, believes the agitation no longer suffices.
Now it has become a law. National Assembly has already approved. Mr. President has assented to it in Finance Act 2020.
Meanwhile, the Postmaster General of the Federation believes the current stamp charges need to be reviewed.
This same 15 naira that we charge, postal operators who are private operators charge 2,000 naira, 1,500 naira. So it is no doubt it is not sustainable at 15 naira.
The stamp will attract revenue, but you should know that NIPOS stamp is printed. It's minted. It's not as if it's just like we collect just the money. No, we use the money also in printing the stamp, and our money goes to the Federation account just like any TSA, just like any other agency.
Stamps have been used in Nigeria since 1874, when Nigeria pioneered the production of stamps with the issuance of what was then known as the Lagos stamps. The federal government believes that the 15-naira denomination revenue stamp would add value to the economy. What Nigerians are waiting to see is how funds realized from the sales of the stamp will be utilized. Empress Simon, Channels Television News.
And to other matters now, the president of the ECOWAS Commission, Mr. Jean-Claude Brau, has announced plans by the Commission to commence the implementation of the region's socio-economic agenda tagged ECOWAS Vision 2050 by December 31st, 2021. Speaking at a meeting organized for members of the Permanent Representatives Committee of the body in Abuja, the ECOWAS chief explains that the new initiative will serve as a platform for the region's socio-economic integration and provide inclusion for all, while removing all forms of impediments to trade and technology transfers amongst its member states.
Thank you very much, Madam.
Members of the Permanent Representatives Committee and ECOWAS resident representatives converge here to discuss issues of economic diversification, transportation, infrastructure, and economic ties amongst member countries.
It is a pleasure to be here.
They're seeking ways to improve the living conditions of people in West Africa. That's why they're considering a draft of the region's Vision 2050 agenda to drive the process.
The meeting with you today get the ball rolling for the validation process, leading to the presentation of Vision 2050 to the authority of ECOWAS Head of State and Government for endorsement in December 2021. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Vision 2050 seeks to build on the accomplishment of Vision 2020, which has set a strong foundation for the movement from an ECOWAS of state to an ECOWAS of people.
Before now, the body has been considering a series of strategies to improve the people's lives, including the Vision 2020, which experts say has achieved some level of success despite the current state of insecurity in the sub-region. Members of the ECOWAS region and development partners list areas of priority which the new policy must focus on.
The discussions at this two-day meeting must be all-encompassing, as well as prefer potential solutions to the challenges confronting the region. All ideas expressed must be taken on board, as this will ensure that the final vision is strategic and incorporates a realistic time frame for all the programs and projects that the community intends to implement.
The GSZ is confident that the future Vision 2050 could be a watershed for the region if the inclusion and commitment of the development phases remain high for all the stakeholders for the next steps.
For 2 days, these representatives drawn from the ECOWAS region will come up with strategies to change the narrative in the socio-economic development of its people. That, if well implemented, will be a game changer for the West African sub-region.
Our news round ends in Afghanistan, where a city in southwestern part has become the country's first provincial capital to fall to the Taliban in recent years. Multiple local officials said the Taliban had captured Zaranj, Nimruz province, Friday afternoon in a significant blow to government forces. Zaranj is a major trading hub near the border with Iran. Militants continue to make rapid advances in the country as foreign troops withdraw. They have taken swaths of the countryside and are now targeting key cities. Other provincial capitals under pressure include Herat in the west and the southern cities of Kandahar and Lashkargah. And that's News Round for the week. Thank you for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. Bye-bye.